What's up, everybody? Coach Cox here, and we hope everybody enjoyed last week's PE activity of tossing and catching. What we're going to be working on today, and is what I want you to think about, is what are different ways that you can dribble in an activity or a sport. Nice. Now, dribbling, that's kind of like a word just to kind of describe how you bounce or how you move a ball through space when you're doing an activity or game. Now, I'm sure some of you, when I asked you that question at the beginning, you probably said, oh, well, basketball, we dribble in basketball. Some of you might have said, what's another sport that you dribble in? Right. So some of y'all know you also dribble in soccer, but of course in soccer, we have to use our feet. So what we're going to be working on today is just some skills to help us develop some different dribbling skills that we're going to use, such as basketball or in dribble-rama, or also in like team handball. And what we're going to be focusing on is actually dribbling with our hands and focus on more of like a basketball kind of skill dribble for this activity. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but coach, I don't have a basketball. Well, you don't have to have a basketball to do this activity. You just need a ball that bounces. And some of you are still like, well, coach, I don't have a ball that bounces. That's okay too. If you don't have a ball that bounces, then I want you just to, in a little bit, you can stop this video and you need to go click on the purple board video, because in that video you can follow along and I'll show you what to use if you don't have any type of ball that bounces. Now, as you can see, I got a few examples, and there are more than this, but right here I have a basketball. I have like a little kickball. Sometimes these are just called like a playground ball. And I also have a tennis ball. So these all balls will work for this activity because we are going to be bouncing and using our hands doing a type of basketball dribble. So real quick though, before you go run off and get your equipment that you need, let's think about this for a little bit. Out of the three different types of balls that bounce that I have, which of these do you think may be the easier to make that activity easier, and which one do you think may make this activity more difficult? Great. So I bet you said the basketball is going to make it easier, but why do you think it is? Like, what's going to make this basketball easier? Awesome job. So some of you said the basketball is the biggest out of all these, so the larger the ball is, it's going to be easier to dribble. Very good. And I don't know, most of you probably know, but I'll get a little closer. And also the basketball has this type of grip on it, and it's got a rough surface, so that'll also help us to make the activity easier. Out of the other types of bouncy balls that I have, which one do you think would be the hardest? Great. I bet you said the tennis ball, because the tennis ball is you got it, the smallest. So if you use a small ball like a tennis ball or bouncy ball, that's going to make this game much more difficult. But some of you may want that because you've practiced this skill a lot, so to make you even better and more skilled, you can try to use a smaller ball. And the kickball here is kind of in the middle. It's kind of going to be medium difficulty. So at this time, you can pause it for a second, go run off, go get your equipment, a type of ball that bounces, and we'll get started. And remember, if you don't have a ball that bounces and you can't find something like this, then you just need to stop this video and go click on the purple video, and I'll show you what to do if you don't have a bouncy ball. All right, pause it, go get your equipment, meet me back here, and we'll get started. All right, welcome back, everyone. Now that you got your equipment, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be using the basketball for this activity for my equipment. Just a few things, because most of y'all probably remember from Coach, because you've had me before. What are some important things that we want to do and remember when we're dribbling a basketball, or depending on what any type of bouncy ball. Great. I bet most of you know one of the main things I tell you is what part of our hand do we dribble with? No, we don't dribble with our fingertips. I know some of y'all said fingertips, but that is not how we want to dribble the ball. Did somebody say their palm? No, we don't dribble with our palm here. That doesn't look right. Nice, y'all finally got it. You're gonna dribble with your finger pads. So your finger pads are the parts of your finger that you feel with. That's what we wanna use to dribble. Does anybody remember what I tell you when we dribble? What do we tell the ball so it comes back to see us? Excellent. We all know we tell the ball bye. Okay, we don't want to slap at it, but we just want to push it to the floor with our finger pads and tell it bye so it comes back up, because if I don't tell the ball bye, the ball is going to get very sad and not want to come back. And the last thing, there's a certain height and a body part that we want to dribble the ball up to. What is that body part, and how high should we dribble the basketball? Y'all are rocking it out. That's right. Up to your waist. So we're going to dribble up to our waist, not all the way up here by our head, and we don't want to be hunched over like a grandma or grandpa, because then our ball's going to stop bouncing. And you do remember, we can't dribble the ball straight down because we'll land on the ball will hit our stinking feet, so we have to dribble to the side or out in front. So what we're going to do, we're just going to start off with some little challenges that'll get us used to using our finger pads and just get us more comfortable with the ball. So when we do our more sport-related skills, you'll be ready to go. And remember, if at any time, if this is kind of hard or you're having trouble with one, you can always pause and practice it some more or try it until you're ready to move on. So you can always pause, try it again if you feel like I'm going too fast. All right, so the first one we're going to do, we're just going to use our finger pads to do what's called balance. So let's hold out our good hand over here. Let's put the ball on our finger pads, and let's just see if we can balance. So when I say the word balance, what do you think that means? Nice. When we balance, that means we want it to stay and not fall over. All right. Let's make this a little more challenging. Let's see if we can make a circle. Can we change directions? And remember, when we're making circles, we can call this clockwise, or if we go the other way, we would call that counterclockwise. That's right. All right, can we do another shape? Let's make a triangle. And how many sides would a triangle have? Yep, that's right, 3. All right, so now that we kind of balance with our good hand, all right, good basketball dribblers also have to be able to use their other hand. So now let's try with our bad hand. Let's bring it up high. Can we bring it down low with our bad hand? To the side, other side. Can you lay down and keep it balanced on your finger pads? Uh-oh. Now here's the hardest part. Stand back up and keep it balanced. Yeah, that gets a little tricky. All right, we're going to move on to what's called tap. So now we're just going to work on tapping the ball using our finger pads back and forth between our good hand and bad hand. Pretend it's a hot potato. You want to go quick, and you don't want the ball to touch the floor or the ground. So I'm going to use my finger pads. Try to go back and forth real quick. Oh. Don't want it to hit the ground, and making sure I'm using my finger pads. Like I said, you can always pause it if you drop the ball and you're having to go get it. Awesome. So that one's called taps. Now we're going to do something called around the world. And for this, what you're going to do, you're just going to hold your ball right here on your belly. And notice how it's touching my body for support. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one hand at a time. I'm going to roll it. And then once it gets to my back, I'm going to use my other hand. And then I'm going to switch. So I got one hand rolling at a time. but I'm making sure to keep the basketball against my body for extra support the whole time. Try to make it 3 times around, then we'll switch and go the other way. Nice. Let's try it around our legs this time. So same thing, but can you roll it around the world, making sure it's touching your legs, going from one hand to the other hand. Then we can switch it up. Now, if you feel like this is fairly easy, well, now what we can do is try to roll it and slowly make our way back up to where we started. And then we can go back down. And then we can bring it back up. Awesome, so that's called around the world. There is a way to make this a little more challenging. So if you feel like that was pretty challenging, you can keep doing that. If you want to change it up, then I'll show you how to do this way around the world. And the only difference is, instead of using your body as like a support, you're going to keep the ball out in front of you, and the ball never touches your body. And you're going to try to pass it from one hand to the other hand. And then you can try to go a different direction. Awesome. And then we can try around our legs. Change up our direction. And then can you make it back up to where you started? And then back down. Can you even make it around your coconut? Awesome. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work on doing what's called a figure 8. So I'm going to put my feet apart, and I'm going to make the number 8. I also kind of compare it to like a snake slithering. So I'm going to go in and out of my legs, making the number 8. In and out. Passing it from one hand to the other hand. Y'all are doing awesome. Keep it up. Now we're going to do some rolling challenges with our finger pads. So let's put the ball right here in front of our toes on the floor. And we're going to roll it using one hand at a time. And then switch hands, making circles. All right, let's switch, go the other way. Can we make a figure 8 with our ball? So same thing, but I'm going to roll it one hand at a time, making the figure 8. Y'all are doing such an awesome job. Keep it up. So now what we're going to work on, we're going to move on to some simple dropping and kind of catching challenges just to work on our hand-eye coordination, kind of like how we did last week with our tossing and catching. But now we're going to add in a drop. Now for this, you want to make sure you hold the ball straight out. We don't want to throw it up because that's going to make the game much more challenging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it straight out. I'm going to drop it, and I just want the ball to bounce one time, and I want to catch it after it bounces once. So I'm going to drop and catch. Drop, catch. Let's make it a little harder. Let's try 3. Can you let it bounce 3 times and catch? 1, 2, 3. Nice. All right, last one. Let's see if we can let it bounce 6 times, then catch. So you might have to count them out to help so you can keep track of the bounces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Awesome. So this is just to kind of help us working on getting our hand-eye coordination and understanding how high we should be dribbling. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing, but I want you to drop it. We're going to clap our hands once and catch. Drop, clap, catch. Drop, clap, catch. Drop, catch. Now see how many claps you can do with just one bounce. But remember, the ball can still only bounce one time. Oh, I got 7. See if anybody can beat 7. But don't forget, the ball can only bounce once. Oh, uh-oh. Awesome. Now we're going to do a drop. We're going to do a 360 spin catch. Drop. Spin catch, but only one bounce, so you got to be quick. Oh no, we got 2. Awesome. Now that we kind of figured out that we want to dribble up to our waist, we got our distance right, and we worked on some hand-eye coordination. Now I'm going to teach you something that's called the flip. Now this one is tricky, and you might have to watch this more than once to kind of get it. But once it clicks, you'll be good to go. So I'm going to show you this way first. So I'm going to have my feet apart, and I'm just going to drop the ball again. Remember, we don't want to slam it. I'm just going to drop it, nice and easy, and I want it to bounce between my 2 feet. Okay, not to the side, straight down. And when it bounces, then I'm going to catch it behind me. But for this, I want you to do 3 bounces before you catch. So you might want to watch Coach first before you go. So, and I'm going to catch it behind my rump roast. 1, 2, 3. And if you notice, I caught it back here behind me. Then I'm going to drop it again. 1, 2, 3, catch. 1, 2, 3, catch. So you might need to pause it for a little bit and practice that one, because that one is tricky. And if you want to get crazy, you can try with just 1 bounce, and that'll make it even more challenging. So I'm going to drop, catch. And this is called flip. Now, if you want the impossible challenge, the expert level, you do the flip without it bouncing at all. Oop, Coach messed up. So that one's called the flip. Now the next one I'm going to show you is called the flop. And for the flop, what you're going to do, you're going to have your feet apart again, but this time you're going to have one hand in front of your leg, one hand behind. Kind of like the figure 8 position that we did. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to let it bounce 3 times again. And when it does, I'm just going to switch my hand. So all I'm doing is kind of doing this motion. I go from my one leg to my other leg. One hand in front, behind, and switch it up. So I'm going to let it bounce 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Switch hands. 1, 2. So just like before, if we want to make it a little more challenging, let's just do 1 bounce this time. Or if you want to get real crazy, no bounces. And like I said, this takes a lot of practice, so don't get frustrated. If you're having trouble, start off with your 3 and slowly work your way up. You might not be able to get it just by watching this video 1 time. All right, so now we're actually going to work on bouncing and dribbling like you would in an actual basketball game. So what we're going to do, remember, we're going to use our finger pads, throw the ball by and dribble up to our waist. And I call this the good hand challenge. Don't forget, your good hand is the one you eat with and write with. So I'm going to use my finger pads, throw the ball by, and dribble up with just using our good hand. And I want to see how many you can get before your ball stops bouncing or before you dribble off the foot. Nice. Making sure to come up to our place. Now, if you notice when I was dribbling, I was just using my good hand. Remember, in basketball, we can't use two hands at the same time. Does anybody know what that's called? Because it's a penalty and you give the ball to the other team. That's right, it's called a double dribble. So we can only use one hand at a time. So, next what we're going to do, we just used our good hand. Let's change it up and use our bad hand. So this is the one I don't write with. This is going to be a little bit harder because we tend not to use this hand as much. So let's try it with our bad hand this time. Nice. Let me know how many dribble challenges you were able to get. Now, what we want to do now is good basketball dribblers, they don't just use either their good hand or bad hand. They do what's called a crossover. Do you think you might know what a crossover is? That's right. So a crossover means you're going to go back and forth and use your good hand and bad hand. The only thing is, remember, we can't use them at the same time. So I'm going to push it from my good hand to my bad hand, make it like a letter V, going from side to side instead of dribbling the ball straight down. And to make this more difficult and to be a better basketball dribbler, instead of looking at the ball, which is what you got to at the beginning, you'd like to be able to keep your head up and dribble without looking at the ball. So, we're almost done. Like I said, you might need to, you might have to watch this more than once to kind of get the hang of it. So, you might have, or certain parts, if you're having trouble, go back and look at those again. What I'd like for you to do is share a video. We'll do a little show and tell. So, first thing I want you to do in your video is tell me what's one important thing I said to remember when you're dribbling. I said there's really three really important things to remember. So if you could just tell me one, and then I'd like for you to show me which was your favorite challenge that I showed you. So I'd like for you to do a little show and tell at the end, share your video, and looking forward to seeing everyone's responses, and we'll catch you next time.